Welcome back to another fun-filled, star-studded edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by GrokTALK.com, the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers, and the hardworking bloggers at GrokTALK.com. This week we have a couple of people on the show. Luma Lanisi, who is an organizer of the Benghazi Vigils in Concord, will be with us later. Bob Burns, who recently ran for the Executive Council in New Hampshire, will be coming in to talk to us about some electoral issues. David Hurst, who ran into trouble with his GPS the last time he was here, will be coming in again to talk about getting out the vote. And, they're both Bob and David are associated with the New Hampshire Young Republicans, so we'll be talking about some young New Hampshire Republican issues as well. And Ed Nail will be stopping by for a short segment to give us an update on vote fraud, which has been a huge topic for us these last few weeks.
And I think it will continue to be such because there's just tons and tons more information that the mainstream media just won't bother with, that elected and appointed officials here in New Hampshire have just kind of put off to the side saying, it doesn't really exist. So I can't wait
and
for...
all of the press has come out against us, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. There's a little thing in the Telegraph that came out on Wednesday that basically said, move along, nothing to see, it just happens, you have to accept it. It's sort of like New York City before the nation's mayor took over, where he said there will be no more broken windows, that we will stop crime when it first starts, and lo and behold, Rudy Giuliani was correct. You stop the little stuff, and the bigger stuff stops too. So, maybe we can look forward to James O'Keefe coming back into state. He has promised that he's going to come back for the next First in the Nation primary. Let's see what happens. These boobs here in New Hampshire were mightily embarrassed and surprised that happened. Now they've been given forewarning. You know what's going to happen, Steve? They're still going to be embarrassed, and they're still going to look like boobs.
Absolutely, and we've already been told that this is going to go away. You pretty much shot all your rounds and you're good to go. But we have an oversized magazine of rounds in this particular fight, and they don't have the slightest clue how many rounds we have. And we're going to keep firing them off every week, all the way to next November.
Absolutely, and the rounds are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, just like that 905 caliber rifle I have yet to post. I saw it yesterday.
905?
905, yes. The biggest commercially made rifle. This is not just a military rifle. This is like a hunting rifle, except the bullets are about yay big and they cost about $40 a round.
Well, I think that probably limits the number of people who would be able to pay for such a device.
That's true, and it nearly rocks your socks when you fire it.
I bet.
It'll knock you off your chair.
I'm pretty sure I couldn't fire it.
No, I'm looking at my age, and I'm saying I may be, my center of gravity may be distributed lower and lower nowadays, but yeah, I'd probably get thrown backwards.
I watch Rick when he shoots his rifle and he leans forward a little bit. He has the posture right and everything. Being a gun guy, I haven't been in the military. That'd be an impressive thing to watch, though. Somebody fire that weapon.
Yes. I'll have to post the video.
You will. So anyway, we have a couple quick things. If you hadn't noticed, it's international news that a Hispanic gentleman was pulled over in Texas for speeding. There was a 5-minute exchange between the officer and the driver of the vehicle. The driver in the vehicle did have a weapon with him. The officer, he notified the officer, and the officer said, "Just leave it in your glove compartment. That's fine." Took his information, checked him out, made sure there was no open warrants, blah blah blah, and he went on his merry little way. He said, "Just please slow down." The reason it's international news is because it was in Texas, and the Hispanic gentleman in Texas who had the weapon legally in his vehicle was George Zimmerman. Now, this is international news. The UK Mail Online has a large article that will take you longer to read than the traffic stop probably actually was.
Have you noticed, though, that the British papers are doing a better job at reporting U.S. news than the U.S. media? It's just incredible that they get to the heart of the matter, and they have no problem slapping anybody around, be they Republican or Democrat. And unlike the mainstream press here, who have, if they stand up in front of the mirror, their noses are all brown, that they have no problem in puncturing the policies of Obama. But you're right, they actually report the news and report it well. But at least, Mr. Zimmerman had it legally. It was put away in the glove box. But and you posted up about it, and I thought that was a clever one. But I like this one. In order to save Bambi, we had to body bag her.
Yes. This is another fine example of... go ahead.
Government at work.
Government
Yes.
at work.
My favorite phrase is, the bigger the government, the smaller the citizen. This one is, the bigger the government, the deader the Bambi. This is basically a family found pretty much a newborn fawn just aimlessly roaming around, and they took pity on it. They figured, she's lost her mother, let's bring her to an animal shelter, which they did, a Catholic no-kill shelter under the auspices of St. Francis. So we've got a Christian charity for animals. They took it in, they had it for 2 weeks. 2 anonymous phone calls, the Fish and Game out of Wisconsin decide, we have to investigate. And in the write-up on the Post, it says, the warden was reconnoitering the place, that he saw the fawn going in and out of the barn. He actually had aerial photographs of the fawn. I'm thinking, great, Fish and Game have drones flying around. And at one point they came in with 12, as the news report from the TV station said, heavily armed people. It was a veritable SWAT team to come in, because it's illegal for wildlife to be owned or held by humans. Well, the whole idea is, don't mess with Mother Nature. You want to save the wildlife, sometimes from the humans. But this is in a no-kill shelter. And they told these guys, tomorrow, Giggles, because they said every time it talked or made a noise, it sounded like something giggling, so they called it Giggles. It's going to a wildlife rehabilitation center. They're doing everything the right way. So what do? At the end of the visit, they haul Bambi out in a body bag. So in order to save Bambi, they killed it. Now, this is when you go, and all of these liberals go, government is compassionate, and I go, how? Why? If everything was being done right, why would they do this? And the bureaucracy see all the little pieces, Steve, and GrokTALK, who just joined us, all the little pieces, but they never look at the big picture again.
Well, this is like the time when they tried to prosecute a little girl for rescuing a bird with a broken wing because she dared to mess with it.
Yeah, or the American eagle a while ago, because it looked hurt. And,
aside from being a perfect metaphor for what big government is, it's just the hypocrisy is insane, because everything about big government is with meddling with everybody's business. Everybody's business. Everything.
Yeah, you had a great post about it's in the DNA of progressives.
It is, and I called them a virus.
Yes.
Whose goal is to infect freedom and personal responsibility and real choices, and just to infect them and to completely force them to become what they want, whatever that may be. Mayor Bloomberg's a fine example. He doesn't think you should drink large sodas, so nobody's going to drink them. He doesn't think you should have sugar or trans fats, nobody's going to have them. Doesn't matter whether your body can handle it or not, doesn't matter what your other factors are or not, nothing else matters except what Mayor Bloomberg wants. That is a progressive notion up and down the scale, all the way across the board. That is what they want. Until you do exactly what they tell you to do, when you tell you to do it, how they tell you to do it, they're not happy.
And funny you should mention Nanny Bloomberg, because he was also on a salt kick. Nobody should have any salt. But right after he said that, and I will say, for once, the mainstream press was doing their job. Report after report after report came out and saw what he was doing at his own lunch time or his supper time. He used more salt than my wife. Now, my wife, I swear, goes through a pound of salt a week. Okay, a little exaggeration there, but she just loves...
Hyperbole.
Yes, she loves pouring on the salt. Meanwhile, Bloomberg's doing the same thing.
But of course, these people only want what's good for us, never what's good for themselves, because they're above it all. But it's even more than that. There have been newspaper reports, actual mainstream press covered this, as well as the alternative, that they found out that salt isn't bad for you after all, that all these low salt diets are mostly bogus. And Rush Limbaugh took great delight a few weeks back in really rubbing his hands with glee and rubbing this one in.
Absolutely.
Well, it is. I mean, you look at their energy policies, you look at their efforts to manipulate the free market, and they always screw stuff up. And they're like Barney Fife.
And they always claim the market doesn't work, as they claim in medicine, when they fail to realize that the government's got more than half the medical market already, which is why it's such a mess.
And it's fun. That's true. And they never understand the consequences of their actions, and they always think that the next step they take will fix it. Like Obamacare. Oh no, you're going to be able to keep your doctor. Obviously, that's not going to work because doctors are going to go, I'm not going to put up with this.
Well, they're not even waiting. Not only are
they're going, and they know, they can see, they can tell. But I mean, then you get to jobs. Okay, so they say, well, we're going to set this benchmark. You have, I don't know what the numbers are. I'm just going to pick a number. 30 full-time employees. You got to pay blah 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 blah. So people go, fine. I'm only going to have 29 full-time employees. They change the definition of full-time to 30 hours. Fine. I'm only going to work 29 people 29 hours. And it just keeps going, and they keep thinking if they keep moving it, they move the goalposts, that they'll get what they want. They won't, because people aren't going to work for nothing. Business owners aren't going to run businesses if they can't earn a living.
Well, the progressives see businesses now as they want to turn them into nothing more than social organizations that are an extension of government. That's all it is. That's all that they want. And you mentioned the movement of companies to, because of the Obamacare saying you can only have 50 employees, and then the mandate kicks in, and then full-time employment is 50 people. Well, then that's the problem. And people, you were right, Steve, people were having their hours cut to underneath 29 hours or less. Well, this week the new regulation came out and said, well, we're just going to add up all those part-time hours, and we're going to assess you based on full-time equivalents. So in other words, the government set a standard. People found a way around that standard. The progressives said, well, that's a loophole. No, guys, you wrote the law that way. Now to cover it up, as you said, Steve, they're now making another law that says, oh, well, we're going to do this because you found a way around our intent.
It's not even a law.
No.
It's a bureaucratic.
Right. And bureaucratic. Well, well, and now you see the Office of Personnel and Management at the federal government level. There was a specific amendment written by Congressman Grassley that said Congress has to participate in Obamacare and must participate in the exchanges. The way, and it got through, it got in, and now all of a sudden, the last 3 or 4 months, people have been going, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars more than what I had to underneath, as compared to the federal health care type deal. We're going to see a brain drain. All of our staffs are going to leave. We're going to be out thousands of dollars ourselves. And, we're, all of us out here are going, yeah, you're subject to the same law as we are. And now Obama, 2 days later, after meeting with the Democrats in a closed meeting, said, I'm on it. 2 days later, we see, oh, by the way, don't worry about it. So we see the law we're just going back to what I'm calling neo-feudalism. We see Obama is the king, surrounded by his courtiers.
And the courtiers are not subject to the laws.
And that's correct. They are not subject to the laws. They can make up, it's fine for thee, but not for me. Now we're seeing it full force, and it's really getting...
And as we move into our first segment, it's laws in New Hampshire don't apply to them either, because they can leave their DC staffer job where they don't have to worry about the pressures and burdens of Obamacare and come to New Hampshire and vote and then go back, which brings us to our next segment with Ed. And Ed's come in to give us an update. But before we do that, I wanted to play some audio for you that I sort of created, because around here, most of the people in the know, those of us who make the sausage or at least watch it cook, are familiar with the effect that Ed has on, local towns and cities who know who he is. When he comes into the room, and he's in their town meeting, or he shows up at a committee hearing, people know Ed knows what's going on, and that they're not going to pull the wool over Ed's eyes. So, with regard to that, I came up with this. So, that is what they do.
You hired an orchestra?
I did, yeah. You should have seen them all in my kitchen. Hi, Ed.
Yeah, how you doing, guys? You've been busy.
Yeah.
I love Steve.
Doesn't take that long. It really
No.
doesn't.
Well, we're back to voter fraud, I guess,
Voter fraud all day, all the time.
and the law. I like to hear people, talking heads on television say, "Well, Obamacare is the law of the land." Well, the law of the land would be written down, wouldn't it? It seems to be Obamacare is a moving con game. If you can just say, well, it's really didn't say that. It says something different this week. It's very similar to our New Hampshire election
This is
laws.
what happens when you let people mess with the language.
Yeah, I have the laws for New Hampshire, and I actually have some going back to 2000 and 2001. They've all changed. Some have disappeared and some have been reinterpreted. Facts remain the same. We have a lot of people from other states voting in New Hampshire. Facts remain the same. Those people have driver's licenses and lives and children and kids in school in other states. They have ties to other states, are employed in other states, and they're not residents of the state of New Hampshire, and they voted. And we've been outing them on a regular basis. And we do this. I've done some in the past, but you guys, Granite Rock, have been outing them. Rich Gerard at large has been doing it. I was on Jeff Chittister's show, which will be aired, I guess, tomorrow, which will be Sunday after Rush Limbaugh. New Hampshire Perspectives, I think is the name of it. So we're going to hopefully tie in some more people so taxpayers and voters in the state of New Hampshire will not have to listen to Bill Gardner and the Attorney General's office and elected officials say there is no voter fraud in the state of New Hampshire, because I have a regular moving crate full of stuff from going back to 2000 when we started investigating that. I got something right in front of me, as a matter of fact. I'd like to read from it.
Please do.
This is called the Keene State College Directory. In the old days, way back, just after stone tools were traded in for bronze, we had these things called directories of colleges, which you could print off the internet. So it used to be nice. I could just go right down and say, oh, John Ballou, he's a voter who voted in Spofford, but I voted in Keene, but he lives in Spofford. And I would, that would be green. And the orange would be somebody like Timothy Ballard. He's from Brookfield, Connecticut. And he was a Keene voter. His phone number, 203-775-8713. This is home number. Stuff like that was all printed for you to read. Because here in New Hampshire, we have a statute that says, let's say for UNH, that if it's a state college, only 24% of the students can be from out of state. So every year they issue themselves a waiver to make it 50%. So when you see 1,000 students registered at UNH same day, you know that half of those are out-of-state tuition. So they're telling the college, oh, by the way, I live out of state, so I have to pay out-of-state tuition. Oh, by the way, I'd like to vote here because I reside here. You don't reside here. You're paying out-of-state tuition to the college. You have an out-of-state driver's license. You claim you have to pay taxes. You're responsible. If you have a driver's license in a state that has income taxes, you're responsible to pay income taxes there because they declare that your residency. Like California has I can quote part of it. A California driver's license is dispositive of residency, and California does the same thing. So I used to be able to get that stuff, and I used to be able to get, now it's impossible. Unless I was to get it from a college student, I can't get it directly. For some reason, they don't want to print them anymore. They don't want those to be public knowledge. Why in the world would
The
that be?
NSA knows what kind of toilet paper you buy, but you can't get a list of students.
Right, but I can get a list of students that get arrested for various things. So we're still going through that. That's on the internet. Here I have something that's called the Ward 1 Checklist Addendum from November 7th, 2000, from an election we had back in November 7th, 2000. And this is called a checklist addendum. So when people came to register same day, the wonderful people that work behind the tables would write their name down. And I have two of them here. And we have a guy named Sean Adams, and he's from Holloway. That's what we put down for an address, Holloway. Well, that's a dorm the college has. And he's from the Green Party. And I think, can I have that confirmed, Skip?
Okay.
It's in pink.
Ah.
All right, so it's Sean Adams, and he is, we're confirmed, just like on Rush Limbaugh. You always snap the paper to know it's really real. That's what we're doing here. And then this is an official addendum. I went with a right-to-know request way back, right after stone tools and bronze tools were phasing out. And I used a 91A request to get that. And then here's another one from the same election, and you'll see that Sean Adams' name is on this one. He's a member of the Green Party with a small g. See, some of the Green parties come with a big G, and some with a small g. And you have other people, like Heather Carson, I think her name is. How did these people get on the addendum twice?
Robert Carson's a known criminal family in New Hampshire politics.
Well, yeah, it's just interesting that you have a person say, hello, you'd like to vote? Yes, my name is Sean Green. Okay, and they get the pen out and they have the official addendum. I don't know what page they were on, but this is part of the official addendum. So they write the name down, boom, 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 and you go in and you vote. How do you wind up on the same addendum later on? This is maybe a 20-page document. Here's 2 of them. And I have 2 or 3 people on this page that are on here twice. I have one gentleman that gave in 2 different addresses. Like, at least Sean gives you Holloway both times, or Owl's Nest is another college dorm. These are documents we used to use way back in 2000 when I think the AG's office and the Secretary of State first began at colleges. Dartmouth, predominantly UNH, and Keene, and Plymouth found out we were onto it. So gradually these documents have become unavailable. I don't think you can get an addendum anymore. You can get a list of new voters who were added on by going through the checklist and doing the work yourself. But the stuff that used to be common for elected officials to keep are now no longer necessary, or they're no longer part of the right to know law.
You mean they destroy it right after the election so we can't follow up in the way that we wish they would destroy young purchase records?
Yeah.
And haven't they also simultaneously watered down the same-day registration process so that there's almost no data collected?
I have a same-day voter card from one of the gentlemen that I found from out-of-state voting here, and this is how they handle it now. If you do get the card, you get it like Steve is looking at it, or you get it like Skip is looking at it. So for some reason, I'm not allowed to see the signature of the person, I'm not allowed to see the birth date of the person anymore, I'm not allowed to see the former town they came from. When in 1993 we updated our voter registration forms to include information like that. They would fill out a form and it would have information telling a citizen who's voting and actually lives in the
state. See, this is fascinating. Now, this person lives in New Hampshire and their town or city was Seacoast, but then they crossed that out and wrote Durham.
Yeah.
Because Seacoast isn't a town.
No, it's like X isn't a town.
It's just like a region. Yeah, just like X is not a town.
In Hanover, we had some people in 2000 were voting with the address of X.
Yeah.
Other people were voting with the address of the boat club, the chem lab, or whatever, because we had a student back in 2002 observed myself and my 2-man team challenging people, not residents at that election. We challenged 440 people, I believe, in one brief afternoon vote. He did his own research. He was a college student at Dartmouth. He must be a smart kid. So he did his own research and called some of these people at their homes in other states to try and get in touch with them. So it's nice that we do have some help occasionally from the inside. But a lot of documents, as you hear more and more about us tracking down non-resident voters, a lot of documents that were available to us through the state of New Hampshire's now non-existent statutes or reinterpreted statutes have disappeared.
I'm looking at this Jeffrey Lancaster, which you've done obviously some additional information on, but place last registered to vote, it's completely blank.
Yeah.
Doesn't that set off a bell in some of these checklist folks saying, okay, maybe we need to check up on this? I'm looking at Christiana Cobb, place last registered to vote. She actually filled it in, and it's all blanked out. Now, why would they blank that out? And you sort of touched on that, but what gives them the legal authority to blank that out? I mean, that should be public information.
Yeah, changing the statutes. In 2006, they started doing that. So any time.
2006, by the way, is when the Democrats took complete control of the legislature.
I guess apparently they were afraid they couldn't do that twice, so they went to work on the election laws in New Hampshire. A lot of the statutes we used to count on have been disappeared, or reinterpreted, or rewritten, or just completely ignored. So,
yeah, not enforced really is the biggest problem. Regardless of who the governor's been, although primarily they've been Democrat governors, the AG and the Secretary of State have pretty much had we don't want to be embarrassed by the reality of vote fraud in New Hampshire, therefore we will just pretend it doesn't exist.
So not only do we have people from other states coming here, we have this state protecting them. And then we have a consistent pattern of election officials violating state statute in an effort to protect them. So it's one big happy family.
Why don't we prosecute the little old lady voter officials who are not doing their jobs, and then maybe only people who want to do the job will take them?
Then you're back to, we don't prosecute anything.
And we don't.
We don't
That's
prosecute.
the problem.
And here's the problem. Like I've talked about here on the program before, in 1996, when I ran for selectman, the supervisor of the checklist of our very, very small town was a woman named Ann Warber. And as people came in to vote, she would tell them, here's your cross your name off the list. You head on to get your ballot. No, by the way, don't vote for Ed Nail. He's a liar. I know him personally. She did that to so many people at our town election that the 3 people wrote affidavits from our own church and turned them into the moderator, Chuck Gades. Chuck Gades turned her into the Attorney General's office, and so did the moderator, Russ Galpin from Cooperative School District, because she did it at the school too. So she was never arrested, she was never charged. I sent that to the AG's office and they wrote her, I think, a 2-sentence letter saying don't do it again. So that's been consistent, because if you did that, you'd make headlines.
Well, that's what I found in Guilford, where they would...
Voter intimidation, by the way, for those of you listening.
Yeah, well...
By trying to intimidate me.
Candidate intimidation, yeah.
I was supposed to look like a fool. I lost the election and I went to help at the AG's office, and it didn't happen. The idea was in 1996 that Ed Nail would go away. Everybody else there apparently that has happened to went away.
Guess what happens when you tick him off?
Here we are.
And here he is. It's now. That was 96. And now it's 2013, and here we go.
We'll be wrapping this up in about 2016, won't we?
Yeah.
Well, I ran into and I've told this story several times before. In Guilford, most of the voting was happening at the middle school. Well, what would happen at that time? Well, the teachers and the staff would just happen to have a mother-daughter time. So that would bring in all the parents and all of that. And, a friend of ours, Greg Niddick, I'm running out of time. We'll have to save this for later.
We can talk about it
Well,
later.
a teacher was bringing her class out, and one of the little boys pointed at one of the campaign sites. It was Jeb Bradley at the time. And he said, "Who's that?" And the teacher said, "That's a bad man. That's a Republican." So
all right, bad man. We'll be back. GrokTALK.
Most excellent. So, Ed, glad you finally got hooked up with Pete.
What's that?
Glad you finally got hooked up with Pete.
Bob,
We'll do that today.
All right. Now,
All right,
gentlemen,
that was 15 minutes. That's quick.
I got something for the break here. Yes, sirree, Bob. I got a whole clutch of ADD squirrels.
The only kind there is, right? In the middle of the road.
I'll wait for Skip to walk back in.
I have this too. Something we put together a while back.
Did you want him to just join us, or?
Right.
Sure.
How's it going?
So,
All right, I'm gonna bail.
Squirrel!
That's a wise investment right there, man. How you doing?
That is us
See you
to a
guys.
T.
well, one for you, and one for you.
I hope you like them. I couldn't
Mama
resist
found
them.
them at CVS. That's why I did that short YouTube of squirrels to send to the Grok crew list.
That's
I'm going to put that headset on so you can hear this commercial.
So when I
funny.
said I'll bring the squirrels,
Grok TV.